Okay, welcome everybody, and I want to congratulate all returning councillors and new councillors. And I'm going to move on to item 1, and that is election of Lord Mayor for the council year 2022-2023. Do we have a proposer and seconder, please? Councillor Upton to propose.
Oh, am I doing the whole full?
No, just formally.
I would like to nominate Councillor James Fry to be our next Lord Mayor.
And a seconder, please. Councillor Clarkson. Thank you. Okay, now we move to the vote for those.
Sorry, Lord Mayor, do I have to declare an interest?
That is entirely up to you. Okay, right, let's move to the vote, please, for those in favour. And I take it there's no one against or abstaining, just for clarity? No. Okay, I now call on Councillor James Fry to take the chair.
I'm learning where the buttons are. Thanks very much indeed. I was just going to make a very minor suggestion which won't really affect this meeting, but maybe will affect future council meetings. When we take a vote, when there is something for new councillors, that a named vote, then everybody's name is noted and how they vote. And that's going to appear in the records, the minutes. For everything else, we just do it by numbers of votes for, against, and abstain. I'm going to suggest, and I did discuss this in the pre-meeting with the relevant leaders of the groups at the time, and Lucy was standing in then for the Green Group, that rather than actually taking time while the votes are counted, if it is very clearly one way or another, we'll still take for, against, abstain, just to see the weight of the opinion. But I think where there's a clear majority, let's save time. Where we have lots of motions, I hope we can get through the business quicker if it's clearly a strong majority. And that seemed to be accepted. So I just mentioned that because we're going to take a few votes now, and I hope that the weight of numbers will be adequate for that. So we now come to the appointment of Deputy Lord Mayor for this council year, and I believe you, Alex, are going to be proposer.
Could I propose Councillor Mark Ligo as Deputy Lord Mayor for the relevant council year?
And seconder? So, may we take a vote, please? Those in favour? Any against? Any abstention? Therefore, Mark will reappear, but sitting in this seat as Deputy Lord Mayor. Congratulations. We now turn on to the appointment of a sheriff for the next year. And I believe you, Ed Turner, you're going to propose, is that correct?
Yeah, I'd like to propose Mike Rowley, who is currently en route to the meeting, chasing along on horseback or something.
And is there a seconder?
I'd like to formally second him.
And so all the votes in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? So Mike, well, we can clap him when he comes. He will become the sheriff. So thanks very much. I'll now turn to Lucy and ask, do we have any apologies?
We have apologies from Councillors Altaf Khan, Deco Walcott and Nigel Chapman.
Okay, I hope you heard that from Councillors Altaf Khan, Deco Walcott and Nigel Chapman. So declarations of interest, I see none. So announcements. It says from the Lord Mayor, I have absolutely zero announcements. From the Chief Executive, nothing either. I'm going to ask Anthony Buckley, do you have any announcement?
You are very kind, and congratulations to the former Lord Mayor as well. For those who may not know, I'm City Rector Anthony Buckley. Just very briefly, I've been here 3.5 years, and this is my second live one of these. And I've been really quite excited all day. And I think it's because it's that combination of continuity with change and stability and new faces, honouring the new, but also honouring the old. The same story, serving the good people of Oxford and beyond, but a different chapter. But I wonder, this could be a discussion starter, not for now, is that the sign of a good, healthy community is when we can honour the old and honour the new and hold them in good balance. One last thing, if I may, for new councillors, you may notice that during meetings I do not raise my hand. That's not because I'm not interested, but because I really am. But because it is all of you who have the real honour that you are representing the citizens of this great city. And so I am privileged to be alongside you, supporting and affirming and encouraging. And thank you so much, all of you, for all that you do. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you very much. That was very gracious. Now we move to the election of the council leader. Do I have a nomination and a proposer? Ed Turner.
I'd like to nominate, who was it? Susan Brown.
Do I have a seconder? I see Imogen Thomas. Thank you. Are there any other nominations? If not, could I ask people please to vote? Those in favour? Those against? Those abstaining? And I take it that this is passed. So, Susan, congratulations on becoming leader. So in your renewed position, could you please give a report on the appointments?
I certainly can. So thank you very much. It's just as well, because I have got a report on the agenda. So few, that's all I can say. And the appointments are essentially for the Cabinet, Mike, we said we'd clap you when you came in, because you have now been appointed sheriff. So I'm just in the middle of doing the report of the leader on the various different appointments. So it's all set out in the report, and I'm not going to read through them all, but essentially we have got the appointments to Cabinet and the setting out of the new responsibilities, the appointments to the future Oxfordshire Partnership committees, and the appointments to the shareholder and joint venture group appointments, and they are all set out in the report. So I so move the report.
I believe this is something we just are meant to note, so thank you very much. And I see we have item 9, which is about, again, appointments to committees. The recommendation is to approve a whole series of them. I think I should ask, is there a proposer? I assume that's you, Susan.
Yes, Lord Mayor. I also move the report of appointments to council committees. And as part of this report, we are approving the structure of the council committees as defined in the Constitution and set out in the report. We're also approving how the political representation on committees was set out, approving the committee seats according to political proportionality and according to the nominations made by the various different groups. Agree that all members of council can form the pool of members able to observe on appeals and grievances panels in accordance with the council's policies. We're appointing 3 non-executive members to the Oxfordshire Growth Board Scrutiny Panel and 1 non-executive member to the Joint Oxfordshire Health Overview and Scrutiny Committee. So that is all the information that's in the report in great detail. I hope we can all agree that.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Thank you. If you could see, that was Ed Turner. Are there any questions? Other speakers? If not, can we proceed to a vote? Those in favour? Against? Abstention? Thank you. So that is carried. Thank you very much. Then the final item is item 10, where I believe there might be a question, which is on selective licensing fees.
Excuse me, Lord Mayor. Sorry to interrupt. I might have an interest, so can I just...
Okay.
I've
So
got an
do you,
interest,
sorry, are you declaring an interest?
Yeah, sorry, I missed it earlier, so I'll do it now.
Okay, and the same for Sarge. Sorry. Shall we leave? Should they leave? Yes. Thanks for raising that. Yes. I've been told what the interest is, so no, that's correct. Just for this item. Is there a proposer? Sorry.
Lord Mayor, sorry, this was, I'm not going to be affected by this, but it might be helpful for the Chief Executive or someone to clarify exactly what's going on with the declarations of interest, just in case there are any members who might find themselves in a similar position who haven't yet declared an interest and might want to do so.
Okay, I think there was uncertainty. Is it about licensing? Is it about things like HMOs? Maybe Marcia, can you clarify? Or
if I can clarify, Lord Mayor, the selective licensing is a licensing scheme that applies to properties in the private rented sector. So we already license HMOs. From the 1st of September, we will be licensing every privately rented property in the city. So if you are a landlord of a property in the city, then you will be affected.
thank you for that. Does it affect anyone else? I don't see that it does. Thanks for clarifying that. Okay, for this proposal on selective licensing fees, do I have a proposer? Linda, thank you.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Oxford Labour fought the recent election with a manifesto commitment to build on our trailblazing HMO licensing scheme and work towards bringing in a licensing scheme for all privately let homes in the city. The recommendation before us this evening is the final decision that this council needs to take before we can start to turn that manifesto pledge into reality. Back in January 2020, I stood here in this chamber and proposed a motion, which was seconded by my good friend, former councillor Sian Taylor, which called for the adoption of compulsory licensing for all privately let homes in the city. Disappointingly, at the time, the Liberal Democrat group tried to derail our ambition. They moved an amendment which would have slowed down our progress towards where we are today. Thankfully, the Labour administration ignored them because we understand the urgent need for action in this area. We know there's a problem with poor housing conditions in the private rented sector in this city. There are too many properties with serious hazards which make them unsafe. Our current work in this area is very good, but it is reactive. It relies on tenants or neighbours coming forward to complain. We need to move to a proactive regulation of the private rented sector if we want to see significant improvements to the city's housing stock and protect renters from poor conditions. A lot has happened since that original motion to Council. On the 9th of September 2020, the Cabinet agreed to go out to formal consultation on the development of a scheme. There then followed 16 weeks of consultation, which, despite the limitations of the pandemic, received a very good rate of response, with over 2,000 people responding to the online questionnaire, and 148 people joining Zoom meetings to give their views, as well as in-depth work with stakeholders. Feedback from the consultation was incorporated into the final proposals, which were agreed by Cabinet on the 10th of March last year, and which were finally confirmed by government last month. All that is left for this council to do is to agree the fee structure contained in Appendix 7 of the report before you. The scheme is cost neutral to the council. Legally, the money raised from fees cannot be used to support other areas of the council's work. The fee structure is designed to reward compliant landlords with generous discounts for landlords who apply early, within the first 3 months of the scheme going live, and a substantial discount for accredited landlords and agents who have signed up to a code of conduct and to receive training on property management. For clarity, the scheme this council will adopt will cover the whole of Oxford, including the Holywell ward. The selective licensing scheme is due to commence on the 1st of September 2022, and it will operate for 5 years. So Council is now recommended to approve the proposed fees and charges structure for selective licensing as attached in Appendix 7 of the March 2021 Cabinet report, which you have before you this evening. And finally, I'd just like to thank Ian Wright, who's here this evening, and Gail Siddall, and the whole team of officers who've worked with them to get us to this point this evening. They've worked astonishingly hard over the whole of the last 2 years, so thank you very much.
Do I have a seconder? Alex?
Yeah, formally.
Thank you very much. I know I have another speaker. Please, Catherine.
Yeah, thank you. I'd just like to say on behalf of my colleagues as well that we welcome the selective licensing scheme being introduced into the city. For far too long, renters in the private sector in non-HMO properties in our city have been facing substandard living conditions, really with their landlords failing to live up to their responsibilities to provide decent housing to their clients and to the people of our city. It's outrageous that a significant number of properties in this sector in our communities have Category 1 level hazards at the moment, and I really hope that this scheme will help address that. I really hope this new scheme will improve housing conditions and management practices and protect those living in private rented housing. With this in mind, I know I speak for my colleagues as well, we look forward to monitoring the success and scrutinising the success of the scheme and determining the impact and any unintended consequences. And I'd encourage the council, and I know you will be doing this, I'm sure, to establish metrics to track the performance and have this commitment, as you've set out, to review the fee levels on an annual basis. So thank you very much, and also for extending it to all wards of the city. And we support the approval of the selective licensing fee set out before us today. Thank you.
Any other questions? Sarge?
Thank you. I want to ask a question, actually. If my understanding is right, there are 30,000 probably homes. Pardon? I'm not a landowner. I live in a housing association house. I'm not rich enough. Yeah. Yeah, sorry.
Continue.
Yes. My question is, currently how many HMO officers we have, and bringing this scheme up, I think is roughly about 30,000 properties we're looking to inspect. So how many will be recruited, and how many property per year you planning to inspect? Because the reason I ask this question is because we already got HMO policy, and this, when you bring on the additional stuff on it, how are we going to improve it?
Will you respond, Linda?
Yeah, so I mean, as I said, the funds that are raised from this scheme over the 5 years, they can only be used to support the scheme. The figures I've seen suggest at the moment that we're looking at 26 extra customer service officers and 11 extra enforcement officers. So obviously that's a big boost to the capacity of this council to go out and find dangers in properties in the city. What I'm not clear about at the moment is how exactly that's profiled over the 5 years. So with your permission, I'm happy to set that out for you in writing after this meeting to give you the exact breakdown of where those, how that expenditure on staffing will be spent.
Please.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I appreciate that, and I will look forward to receiving that in written writing. But all I want to say is HMO team led by Ian Wright is a fantastic team. They do a great work, and I have no hesitation about saying Ian Wright is one of the best officers. But bringing this extra legislation, to be honest, I'm not going to vote for this, and I'm going to vote against it. The reason is because HMO scheme is always successful. Either the council saying, I know it's a political commitment for the Labour group, but either the council is saying, our HMO team is not working, we need to charge extra, we need to bring other officers. Because 30,000 plus 500 each household, it is a money-making, basically, scheme more than anything. It's not going to improve anything if the HMO hasn't. Thank you.
All right, Alex, would you like to respond?
Well, I reserve my right to speak. So are we having a debate or a question and answer session?
I guess we are having, I thought this was going to be more of a formality, okay. But please respond.
Right. My point is the reason that the council has proposed this extension of the scheme is that the HMO scheme necessarily only covers HMOs. This extends it to the entire private rented sector. So clearly the HMO team only inspects and licenses HMOs. The proposal here is to move it to the entire private rented sector, which means it encompasses a much larger group. It is worth pointing out that 50% of homes, just over 50% of homes in this city are in the private rented sector. That is a significant new group of tenants who are individuals, tenants who are families who are not currently covered because they don't live in HMOs, who will be made safer, whose living conditions will be better, and whose landlords will be held to account as a result of this scheme. And I think that is an inherently good thing, and I hope that everybody will vote for that.
Thank you. I am going to suggest that having heard the comments and your response, could I suggest we proceed to a vote now? Those in favour, please indicate. Those against? Those abstaining? Thank you, that is carried. So at this point, I close the meeting and we will start the next formal session in about half an hour. So thank you very much.